Hey everybody, hope you're well. We're live. The Oakland Planning Commission meeting is to start really any second now. I'm actually working to post this on, already put it on Twitter. Now I'm putting it on Facebook for anybody who might want to check it out. This is, here we go. Oops.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the May 5th, 2021 Oakland Planning Commission meeting. If we could go ahead and take roll.
Yes, Commissioner Mancha.
Present. I'm going to have to turn off my video for the first few moments, but present.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hegde.
Present.
Commissioner Shirazi.
Here.
Commissioner Fern.
Here.
Commissioner Ray Lynch. I didn't see him.
Right, no Ray Lynch.
Vice Chair Manis
Here.
and Chair Lamont.
Here.
We have a quorum with one absence, Commissioner Ray Lynch.
Great, thank you. If we could move forward with the Secretary Rules of Conduct.
Yes, and before I go through the rules of conduct, I would note, as I'm sure many community members have noted, that we do have a few commissioner terms ending this month, and just want to note that commissioners are eligible for 2 terms, and there's no one actually coming off the Planning Commission today. And so at the next meeting, we may have one commissioner coming off, and we will make sure to say a few words and allow commissioners to say a few words if they come off. However, commissioners can be, whose terms are over, can be held over at the mayor's pleasure and the commissioner's pleasure until such time as a replacement can be nominated and appointed. So again, nobody's coming off the Planning Commission today. And with that, I will go into the secretary notes. Good afternoon, community members, and welcome to the May 5th, 2021 Special Planning Commission meeting of the City of Oakland. This meeting is being hosted on a Zoom webinar platform that allows attendees to raise a virtual hand to speak. The Planning Commission agenda for this meeting includes instructions for how to raise and lower your hand on this platform. At this point, we ask all attendees to lower your hands and only raise them when the item you're interested in speaking on is called, and please not before. If you're calling in from a phone and wish to comment, press *9 to engage the raise your hand feature. That's *9, and *6 to unmute yourself. Again, *6 to unmute yourself. The meeting platform will keep track of the order in which hands are raised. Each speaker will have a maximum of 2 minutes to speak, and time cannot be ceded from one speaker to another during this process. When it is your turn to speak, we will unmute you, and you will unmute yourself on your own device and begin speaking. Please identify yourself by your given name at the beginning of your comment. Once you are done, the city will again mute you, and you won't be able to speak again on that item unless the commission so chooses. We will call each item in turn. If you're here to speak on an item that has not yet been called, we appreciate your cooperation in not raising your hand until the item you're interested in is called. This meeting is being recorded by KTOP and will be available on the city's website following the meeting. Additionally, minutes are posted on the city's website once approved by the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a director's report? I'm sorry. Yeah, agenda discussion. Sorry.
Right, so none from the secretary today.
Okay. Do we have a director's report?
Not this evening.
Okay. Informational report.
No information reports today.
Okay. I do believe we have a committee report. DRC. Oh, you're on mute, Clark.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, thank you, Chair Lamont. We had one item on the April 28th DRC hearing. Both Commissioner Fern and myself were there. Chair Lamont, you were unable to attend. The item on the calendar was 1925 Brush Street regarding major CUP to demolish an existing industrial building and construct three-story building with 18 townhouses. Both Commissioner Fern and I recommended the project move to the Planning Commission. Two items that we identified that we wanted staff to discuss regarding colors, materials, and relationship to surrounding. We asked from additional renderings that they would provide before they came to the Planning Commission. We both were in support of the recommendation regarding the current site plan as proposed, and we did actually discuss the parking and other avenues that the project sponsor in the neighborhood could pursue in finding a way to deal with their concerns on parking in that neighborhood. So, Chair, that is presentation on the April 28th DRC hearing.
Thank you. Ms. Payne, did we have any other committees meet this?
I don't think the ZUC met, and one of you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think you do have a ZUC meeting coming up in this month, but you did not have one within the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
I think we reported out on our last one.
Right.
Okay. Commission matters. So this is the commissioner's opportunity to bring up anything they'd like to. So if I don't see anybody stepping forward, we can move on to City Attorney's report.
Good evening, commissioners. There is no city attorney report.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mulry. And moving on to open forum. So this is an opportunity for the public to speak about any items that are not on the agenda today. So it looks like we have one hand.
Yes, we do. So the first open forum speaker will be Naomi Schiff. You may unmute yourself to make your comment.
Just a quick announcement that if you're interested in sports, Oakland Heritage Alliance has a free online presentation by very prominent local sports writer Paul Bretke-Meisner called A Basketball Revolution in Oakland. That's Thursday at 7, and you can find it. You have to sign up, but it's free. oaklandheritage.org. Thank you.
And Ms. Schiff, and Paul Bretke-Meisner, he's also written about baseball and other Oakland sports, I believe.
Exactly. He's our local sports expert, and he knows it all, and he has written a book about Oakland sports called Home Field Advantage. You might
Okay. Great. Well, thank you for mentioning that to us today.
Thanks.
Okay. Consent calendar.
There are no items on the consent calendar today.
Okay, great. So we'll move forward with the first item on the public hearings.
Yes, so you have 3 public hearings today. The first is for 3855 West Street, and this is a proposed vesting tentative map for a mini lot, what we call mini lot subdivision. And this also includes regular design review, minor variances as well. And the planner for this is, I believe, Gregory Kwan. Yes, it is. And he is available to make a presentation.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The project you have before you is the creation of a 6-lot mini-lot development with shared access facility and construction of 6 townhouse-style residential dwellings and 6 on-site parking spaces on a vacant lot located at 3855 West Street in North Oakland. It is worth noting that were it not for the creation of 5 or more lots, this project would normally require only staff level review and is before the Planning Commission due to the proposed tentative tract map. If the Commission identifies any significant design issues, the project could be referred to the City's Design Review Committee for further discussion before rescheduling the item for the Planning Commission review and final decision. Requested permits include minor conditional use permits for a mini lot development, shared access facility, and 5 or more units in the RM4 zone, design review for construction of 6 dwelling units, tentative tract map to subdivide the site into 6 mini lots, and minor variances to allow private open space to be substituted for group open space, and for stairs to project 7.5 feet into the front yard where 4 feet is allowed. The proposal for 6 new townhouse-style dwelling units includes a combination of horizontal and cement panel siding and wood-clad windows. The design incorporates various elements and detailing, such as walk-up entry, projecting and recessed wall planes, varied roof lines, and material changes to achieve a visually attractive development that both reads as a unified whole while featuring distinctive elements at the same time. The proposed landscaping includes trees, shrubs, ground cover, as well as hardscapes such as decorative paving, planters, and other features that enhance the visual quality, functionality, and experience of the open areas. Regarding privacy, the building is set back 5 feet versus the code minimum of 4 feet along the interior side property line, and minimal windows are proposed to reduce privacy impacts on the northerly neighbor. There is 15 feet of separation, supplemented with a row of landscape screening to minimize privacy impacts on the westerly neighbor. The proposed development is consistent with general plan policies and zoning standards, subject to approval of the requested permits and the attached conditions of approval, and is exempt from further environmental review per CEQA guidelines sections 15.183, 15.315, and 15.332. 6 letters of support have been received, in addition to support voiced by a nearby resident via recent phone conversation earlier today. Generally, the comments received are related to existing crime in the area and their views that the proposed development would have a positive impact on the community in reducing existing crime. No letters of opposition have been received. In conclusion, staff believes that the project will further the goal of increasing the city's housing stock, and therefore recommends the commission confirm the environmental determination and approve the minor conditional use permits, design review, variances, and tentative track map for the proposed project, subject to the attached conditions of approval. That concludes my presentation. Staff is available to answer any questions the commission might have. The project sponsor is in attendance today and would like to speak briefly on the item and can answer questions as well.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions from the commissioners? Okay. Okay, is the applicant prepared to present?
I just promoted the applicant for number 1 to panelist, so you may now present.
Great.
Oh, unmuted. Can everybody see me?
We can see you, we can hear you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm very pleased with you today. I did a presentation. Presentation. Are you guys in receipt of the drawings, I assume, in front of you? Or
and Mike, you're frozen.
yeah, okay. So
maybe turn off your video.
Can you hear me?
You're breaking up quite a bit.
Okay.
It's still a little choppy. It's still a little choppy.
You're in receipt of the drawings. I just wanted to thank you for your time. I'll end my presentation if I don't have a good connection, but I'm here for questions if you have any.
Okay. Yeah, you sound fine. If there's anything else you'd like to add.
I just wanted to add that we just completed the project across the street, which was formerly known as 733 Apgar. It has a similar aesthetic, and we worked closely with the neighbors for a couple of years completing that project, now working on the design of this particular project. And it's an intersection that is terribly blighted, and it badly needs something to replace the current vacant lot, which was formerly the lot of a warehouse that had burned down. It had some folks illegally squatting in it, and it burned down. Nobody was injured in that fire. We purchased the lot to develop this, and our hope is that in developing this and getting 6 new homes and residents on the corner, we can start seeing some improvement to this The neighborhood has a lot of design is self-explanatory, and hopefully that it's very contextual. The character of the home tubes will townhomes that look like individual homes. It's got setbacks that are in exceedance of what's required. It is below the allowable height limit and below the allowable density. So we really try to not squeeze the project, but to craft a project that fit nicely into this context without pushing the limits. I won't add anything more. Just let me know if you have any questions about the design in particular. And again, thank you for your time today.
Great, thank you. Okay, do we have any questions for the applicant at this time? If not, we could move on to the public portion. Okay, why don't we move forward with the public comments portion of this item?
Okay.
Yep.
So it looks like we have one hand related to this item. Andrew, you may unmute yourself to make your comment. You have 2 minutes.
Hi there. My name's Andrew Miller. Hi, everybody. Thanks for your time. I live on Attar Street, about 3-4 houses away from the proposed project. And just want to say that I am very much in favor of it. And my neighbors that I've talked to, I don't know if they're here or not, but the whole neighborhood is excited to see that project going in. We watched the other project go in. It went in very smoothly. They have been great neighbors and have really talked to people in the community. I just want to say that I think this is a great opportunity to have additional housing. They're not displacing people. The empty lot is a blight on the neighborhood, and to have housing going in there is great. So I'm all in favor of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And our next comment comes from Eric Shukfa. Please state your full name for the record, and you may unmute yourself.
Hi, thanks. It's Eric Scuffsa. That was admirably close. I also live on the block next door to Andrew, in fact. So hi, Andrew. Just want to echo what he said. You know, we've had nothing but positive interactions with the developers in their work, kitty corner to the proposed site. The buildings they put up look great. And you can already see it having a positive impact on the neighborhood. And we're excited to see more of that at the proposed site.
Thank you for your comment. And looks like we just had one more hand raised. Nate, you may go ahead and unmute yourself to make your comment.
Thank you, commissioners. I live next door to the site the developers just finished at 735 Apgar.
I'm sorry, could you state your name for the record, please?
Nate Ratcliffe, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, 735 right next door. Just really had a great experience. I've been really respectful of my family, especially during this time at home where we were right next door for a lot of the construction. And so I have nothing but good things to say about the development team. I think we're focused on doing great work here, but also respecting the neighbors. So I am in support of the project.
Thank you. And another comment comes from Don Howell. Please unmute yourself to make your comment.
Hello, I'm Don Howe. I'm also a neighbor a few houses away. And I've been really, really pleased with these developers in their existing work on this corner. I think 4 townhouses and a commercial building with an apartment on top that took the place of an abandoned laundromat across the street is one of the most thoughtful, well-integrated pieces of small development I've seen in Oakland. And I'm really glad they're interested in doing some more for us. Just in terms of, I noticed one of the variants here, if you're considering denying it, please don't, is to allow the front entry stairs to project 7.5 feet instead of 4 feet into the front yard setback. That is actually very much in conformance with almost every other house on the block, which are mostly raised bungalows and raised Victorians. And I think that projection would actually visually make the entire development fit in better with the neighborhood instead of standing out in a bad way. Again, I've just been really impressed with their design savvy and how well the stuff they've done in the neighborhood so far has fit in. And we need that to not be an empty lot as soon as possible. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for the comment. And if no one else would like to make comment, that would be the final comment.
Great, thank you. So we will close the public hearing portion and bring it back to the commission. So if we have any questions, please shoot away.
Chair Lamone, I just have one question, and I don't know whether it's for Mike or Gregory. Can you just can you clarify the open space exchange? Your text sort of described it, but I still wasn't really clear exactly what's being done.
Sure, I'll be happy to get into a little bit more detail on that. So the code requires a minimum of 70 square feet per unit whenever there's private space substituted, such as in this case. So that would mean normally a minimum of 420 square feet would be provided. However, in this instance, 1,737 square feet of actual private open space is provided. And that's just the actual amount, because normally whenever a private open space is proposed, we can essentially double that square footage towards the total group open space that would normally be required. So if no private open space were proposed, we would need 1,050 square feet. Whereas in this case, not only is there are over 1,700 square feet of private open space proposed, but that could essentially be double. So we would normally count that as over 3,000 square feet of private open space, when 1,000 square feet is normally required of group open space. But the caveat is, if private open space were proposed, normally we would want to see at least 420. Considering this is a mini lot development, which allows certain waivers for setbacks and other standards, and the proposed design, we feel that in this case,
hey, thank you,
that
Dave.
this
Much appreciated.
substitution of private for minimum group open space is appropriate.
Great, thank you, Greg.
Thank you. I try.
Great. Any other questions from Commission? Ms. Hegde.
Hi. I was hoping that either staff or the applicant can walk through the affordable housing impact fee and how that is, whether or not the development is beholden to that, what it looks like, how much it might bring in, if anything, to the city. Did y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, and so the applicant, through our standard protocols, is aware or should be aware that they should be prepared to answer this question. So, Mr. Pitler, I'm assuming that you have a response to this question since it's laid out in our noticing and public protocols. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's fairly straightforward, and we'd be doing the same thing that we do with all of our Oakland projects, which is pay housing impact fee per new dwelling unit.
I don't know if anyone else can hear him, but he's very, he keeps going in and out, and I'm not sure if that's an issue on his end or
it's his end.
okay. I basically can't hear anything he's saying.
Is now any better?
It's still a little rough. But Mr. Hegde, I think if I'm looking at this correctly, this falls into zone 2 of the different categories, and the impact fee would be approximately. I'm not sure if it for multifamily it would be $19,250 would be the impact fee, or for townhomes, which this might be $17,250 per unit. So that gives you an idea. So it's about, rounding up, it's 115,000 and around there.
And I would just ask that Greg, through the chair, if we might ask Greg and his supervisor, Maurice, to confirm that.
Yes. According to the commissioners, that is confirmed. Every year, those fees are adjusted. So at the time when the applicant applies for building permits, they'll be sure to make sure to look at the most up-to-date version. But that is the same figure that I see.
I always think it's helpful to, first of all, thank you. I always think it's helpful to clarify that because in our conditions of approval and in the staff report, it referenced city code, but that is not always as accessible as it could be for members of the public to understand how a specific project is complying and to what level with our impact fee policies. So thank you so much.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. Do we have any other questions from commissioners? Okay, let's move forward with comments. So Commissioner Hegde, if you don't mind, comments?
I think this is a good project. I always wish there could be affordable units embedded within it. I think it's always a missed opportunity for our city when there aren't affordable units incorporated within a project. But I also understand that the developer is doing what they are required to do under our policies. So I do find this project attractive. I think it'll be a good addition. It's helpful to have members from the neighbors come and speak their thoughts about a project, and yeah.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Fern.
Yeah, no real comments. I think the project is well designed. It looks good. I think it's an example of what happens when you get small scale developers doing small scale development, and I'd like to see more of it to diversify Oakland's housing stock.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Munchamp.
Agree with what my fellow commissioners just said. I think it's a good project, good location. Glad to hear the support of the neighbors for this developer's sort of action in the neighborhood more broadly, and agree on the steps and the distance that they're going to project.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Shirazi.
Not much more to add. I think it's always heartening to hear a community turn out and support of a project and recognize that developers have talked to the community and worked with the community rather than going to them at the far end of the project. I'm generally always in agreement that we'd like more affordable housing. I think within the confines that we have, this seems to be a great project, and always happy to see it underutilized for blighted lots, refurbished for the neighborhood center.
Great, thank you, and thank you, Commissioner Shirazi, for attending. I know you mentioned you were traveling, so thank you for being here. Vice Chair Manis.
Like my fellow commissioners, I would agree with the comments about the character of the design and community engagement and the affordable housing. So I think it's nice to see a project like this. The only comment that I would have to the project sponsor is maybe looking at the Apgar street elevation and making it a little bit more lively. I like the tone of the design, and that side elevation on Apgar is a little bit less friendly, if that's the right word. But Chair Lamone, those are my comments.
Great, thank you. And yeah, I don't have too much to add. I mean, I'm in agreement with my commissioners. I think this is a very good use of the space, considering it's what it's been for the neighborhood in the past, and also it's really good to hear that the project across the street has been well received, because I think most of us have been part of the commission since that was approved. One thing I would like to add is the materials board that was included in the package was very helpful, and so I think for staff, this is a really good example of presenting materials board during this time of COVID, and not being able to feel or touch the materials. So this was very helpful. So with that, we have a motion for this item.
Apologies, before you get to a motion, if you don't mind, through the chair, the city attorney has asked me to make a correction regarding the impact fee, just to make sure that the record is consistent, that we don't calculate the actual impact fee until the time of building permit submittal. And this is per the Oakland Muni Code. So we don't have an exact amount today. So what you were told was an amount as if the project was submitted for building permit today. But of course, we know that it's not being submitted at this time. So that would be calculated in the future, just to be clear. And he's noted that the amount can be increased annually by the city administrator. So that amount that was cited was as if the building permit were being submitted today. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that clarification. Okay, so with that, do we have a motion for this item?
So Chair Lamone, I'd like to make a motion that we, 1, affirm staff CEQA determination, and 2, that we approve the conditional use permits, the design review, the variances, and the tentative track map subject to the attached findings and the conditions of approval.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Hegde, thank you.
And before we take roll, I would note that we now have Commissioner Ray Lynch here.
Okay.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll take roll. Commissioner Mancha?
Yes.
Commissioner Hegde?
Yes.
Commissioner Shirazi?
Yes.
And Commissioner Ray Lynch, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Fern?
Yes.
Vice Chair Manis?
Yes.
And Chair Lamone?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously, and this decision is appealable to City Council within 10 days.
Great, thank you. And moving on to our second item.
Yes, your second public hearing today is for 2420 to 2432 Chestnut Street and 2423 Linden. This is a proposed major conditional use permit, and it as well as a minor CUP for multifamily development. And the planner for this application is Jason Madani, who is available to make a presentation.
Good afternoon, commissioners. I would like to thank you. A special thanks to all of you to give us an opportunity for a special planning commission meeting. I really appreciate that. To begin with, the project is located at 2420 and 2432 Chestnut Street and 2423 Linden Streets. The project applicant, Riaz Capital, proposes to demolish 2 light industrial buildings and an unoccupied 2-story residential building, and construct 12 residential units and a detached community room on a vacant lot at 2423 Linden Streets. The planning permit required is a major conditional use permit for a 3 or more units in RM2 zones, and minor conditional use permit for multifamily dwelling facility and community assembly activity in RM2 zones, and regular design review for a demolition of a residential building, which is a potentially contributed to an area of a secondary importance, and of course, construction of the residential project. This site is located in RM2 and RM4 zones, split zones. The site is approximately, there are 3 lots that are going to be merged, and the total lot size is about 24,882 square feet. The density requirements meets the planning standards. They are providing 12 parking spaces plus bike parking space and approximately 3,300 square feet of open space. The site access off the Chestnut Streets, and the physical location of the site is between on Chestnut between 24 and 26, and the physical location of this site has a 2 industrial site, which is a contaminated site. As far as the environmental determinations, is CEQA required to prepare a report, and under sections 15183.3 streamline for infill project, and as well as section 15183. The project consistent with the community plans and general plans or zoning. A CEQA checklist was prepared for this project, and is you can find it on the website, and the CEQA document was established on March 26, 2021, and is published. And as a result, the project addressed all the contamination, and back in 2020, Alameda Health Department had approved initially for cleaning up the site, and they are monitoring to make sure that this site it will be clear. As far as the design, staff work with the project manager representative to bring the project to conformance of our design review guidelines, as well as part of our review, we need to also make a design review finding for demolition of a PDHEP project buildings, and make the necessary finding, which is you can find it in a staff report. So and at the last minute, Oakland Heritage Alliance has submitted additional informations that requesting to modify a building that is going to be located on Linden Streets. Giving some background about historic demolition findings, this site is only building that is on this block that is considered a potentially designated historic property. And we found out that we were looking for relocate the building, but however, the site that is located on Linden Street is 20 feet wide, and the building is approximately 32 feet 5 inches that we could not fit in that site. And in addition, the building has been damaged on the lower part of the 2-story residential building that cannot be salvaged. And we are adding a conditions of approval as part of a scope of projects that the project should be advertised for sales or relocation of the parcel. So there are more detail about the demolition finding that can be addressed as part of the presentations, and the applicant is going to present these projects and address the additional request from the Oakland Heritage Alliance. At this point, I am complete my presentations and I'm available. We have addressed all the findings as far as the conditional use permit, as well as the design review finding for the project, as well as a demolition of a potentially designated historic parcel. So I'm available to respond to any question you may have.
Great, thank you. Do we have any immediate questions for staff from the commission? Okay, if we could move forward with the applicant's presentation.
Great. Thanks, Jason. Can everybody hear me okay? Perfect. My colleague Lisa is going to help me with this presentation as well. I just want to mirror what Jason said and thank the commissioners for allowing us to present in the special meeting. I know we were on the docket last month and sounds like some folks had to make time during vacation, so we really appreciate it. The project that we are presenting today is 2432 Chestnut Street, and it is a 12-unit townhome project. Looks like we're still loading. Sorry, give me 1 minute. Okay, next slide, please. I just want to tell you a little bit about who we are. Our firm is Rial's Capital. We've operated in Oakland for around 30 years. We've operated a portfolio of what we like to think of as stylish, transit-oriented, and contextual housing, all while trying to remain attainable to our target customer. Our target customer is specifically, what we call middle income, moderate income, or the Oakland workforce, and our housing is designed specifically for the needs of those folks, including teachers, nurses, nonprofit employees, government employees, and many other flexible family units and single income professionals and entry level professionals. Some of the projects that we've been working on, I'd say over the last 10 years that fit this mold include, both regulated affordable properties, old micro unit rehabs, and adaptive reuse projects, including a large mosque that we converted into 60 apartments using historical tax credits in 2015. We also have done a few flexible workforce housing projects similar to the ones that we're doing today. Some of you might be familiar with our art house project we did in the Fruitvale, Jingletown area of East Oakland. Our goal is, really to provide, both affordable by design housing, which this project is, and other affordable housing for this missing middle, and to build flexible, functional, and economical multifamily homes that will house Oakland residents for decades to come. We hold our properties for 10 plus years, and we'll be continuing to rent this for the foreseeable future. To achieve, what we call this housing for the missing middle, we try to minimize what we call non-housing housing costs, or large amenity spaces, large parking garages, and effectively things that add significant extra cost to projects that ultimately gets passed on to the renter. Excuse me. So we try to build flexible housing solutions for the 21st century, both families and as well as single income professionals. We do this by building small format housing, contextual buildings that fit within the neighborhood, and often try to be focused on being transit oriented. I think before I pass it to Lisa, one thing that Jason brought up is that this is a contaminated site that we have a regulatory case open with Alameda County. So we have an approved corrective action plan and a corrective action implementation plan. We are working through that process with Alameda County. As Jason noted, we'll be monitoring it as we clean it up. And, we plan to start some of the remediation at the beginning of this project and include mitigation in this project as well for any vapor intrusion risk. So with that, I'll pass it on to my colleague Lisa, who's going to say a little bit more about the project. Thank you.
Thanks, Seth. Try to get through this one quickly, but our site is located on Chestnut Street between 24th and 26th Street, and also includes a small lot that connects the property to Linden Street. The project has currently been used as a storage facility and is now vacant, or I should say it was used. Here's some photos of the surrounding neighborhood context. And as you can see, there's a blend of uses. So across the street is a school and an industrial style. Just north of this site is residential, but in a more modern, more recently built project. And then on the Linden Street side, you see more of the historical residential. Our project's located on about half an acre in the RM2 zoning, which allows for up to 12 units with a CUP. As staff mentioned, the building is an PDHP with a DC3 rating. We are proposing 12 three-story townhome style development with internal courtyards and then a parking lot that's located behind the building. We also have the small building on the Linden Street parcel that's intended to be used as a residential lounge. We also have 12 on-site parking spaces, which is consistent with the zoning, and then are also providing 18 bike parking spaces. Here's a look at our site plan. So as you can see, we're adding all new landscaping, new frontages, sidewalks, and curbs. We also match the setbacks to the surrounding uses, and you can also, we have the mid-block green spaces. All of the, there's 5 units along Chestnut Street that front onto the street, so have front doors, and then the other units go off of those paseos. We make it a goal to design and build these projects sustainably. So with that, we have 3,300 square feet of open space, which will have all new drought tolerant plants. We are including those 18 bike parking spaces, and we're looking at facilitating other transportation options like rideshare, scooters. We've, in some of our other projects, had the rideshares either on site, or we're looking at also doing the parking, taking a parking space outside as well. Throughout working with the staff, we had received a fair amount of comments and worked with them to reduce the height from 40 feet to 35 feet. We also redesigned the plans to have the front doors facing on Chestnut Street. We have simplified the bays to make it more consistent. And then we also revised the roof forms and the material patterns to provide more interest. These show both the original design and then the revised design. This is Chestnut Street, and then this was the rear, the east elevation. We also want to share our vision for including art into the project. Each of the RIAS Capital projects that we are building are including art in some form, whether it is required through the public art program or just on our own. You can see some of the other projects that we've done that do have murals on them. We held a community meeting back in December. We sent out notices to residents within a 400-foot radius of the property. We had about 4 neighbors and then our team that were there. Generally, everything was positive. Some of the concerns were regarding security, where we updated them on both our construction security protocol and then also including, we will be having fencing all around on any of the adjacent lots. There was some concern regarding the existing home on Chestnut raised by the OHA. This house has been substantially altered from its original design. I just want to note, while the staff report mentions that it's a 2-story building, it's actually a 1-story lifted on stilts. So it's kind of an interesting thing. Much of the interior character is completely gone. Pretty dilapidated after years of deferred maintenance, and habitation is not possible due to the structural conditions. We did look at relocating the house to the Linden Street parcel, but unfortunately this house is about 32.5 feet wide and that parcel is only 25 feet wide. But as mentioned, we are going to be advertising the house to be available for relocation. We also met with the OHA earlier this week and took other suggestions regarding the architecture of the Linden Street residential lounge building. And we've worked to provide some revisions. So as you can see here, we've revised by adding both horizontal siding, and then also we added articulation throughout the building. We added an additional window on the front elevation and made the windows vertical, and then added a projective eave gable on the front building and added casing. We feel as this design fits contextually into the neighborhood, but also still has an architectural character that works with the rest of our project, and then also keeps the functionality of the space as well. That wraps up our presentation, but we appreciate your time. And then if you have any questions, both Seth and I are here, as well as our architect.
Great. Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for showing us those changes to the drawings also on the Linden side. So if we don't have any immediate questions, we can go ahead and open the public hearing portion of this. And if you're an attendee and you would like to speak, please raise your hand.
Okay, and it looks like I have one. Ms. Naomi Schiff, you may unmute yourself to make your comment.
Hi, we were very happy to discuss this project with the developers. I noticed that Jason Madani said we came in rather late commenting. That is because of the very difficult noticing situation that we are in which it is very hard to find out when a project is noted and where the plans are. But we're trying, and we hope that the department will make it a little easier for us moving forward. We're generally very pleased with the renovation the revision to the design on the Linden Street side. We just have a couple of small remaining comments. The vertical windows, for some reason, these windows have small areas at the bottom and large areas at the top of each frame. You'll see in that side view, one of the windows is the other way. They should all be that way. It'll fit into the context better and look less upside downish. We're really very happy that the eaves were added. And the only remaining comment is that if it is possible to put a door on the Linden Street side rather than on the side of that residential assembly space or whatever it's called, that would be a little friendlier to the neighborhood, and it would be nice looking, and we would appreciate it if that is possible to do. But in general, we are very grateful to have been able to discuss this project, and we would think that the only remaining thing is something that we discussed in passing, which is we hope you'll discuss color, and that we're not going to get too much gray in this project. Gray is an overwhelming cliche, which is slowly taking over the entire city of Oakland. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. And next, we have David Lau. You may unmute yourself to make your comment.
Hi, my name is David Lau. I'm a resident on 24th Street between Linden Street and Chestnut Street. I've lived there for 15 years, starting in 2003. I just wanted to echo Naomi's suggestion to have a front door. I think that would make the home look more welcoming. But the main reason why I'm on this call is just to voice my support for Rias Capital's proposed redevelopment of that block, specifically on 2432 Chestnut Street, and then also the one on Linden Street, which I believe is on the same block. I just also want to say that I'm not getting paid to say this. I'm just volunteering and to show public support for redeveloping these unused or underutilized areas into multifamily housing that will benefit the neighborhood and community. I think the idea of having a relatively economical housing would be very beneficial for the city of Oakland, which currently has real estate prices skyrocketing even during the pandemic. I think also that by having more residents, especially residents who are, especially residents who are going to become homeowners, will increase safety within the neighborhood as well by providing more eyes on the street. So just in summary, I'm a big supporter of this redevelopment project. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do have another hand that just went up. Is it Sune? You may unmute yourself to make your comment, and please state your full name.
Hi, I'm Sune John. I'm on the other side. I didn't realize my photo was going to be up. I'm one of the adjacent homes to the south that I just saw a photo of, and I'm probably one of the residents that's concerned about the security and privacy. I moved to the East Bay, close to the Bay Bridge, because I still work in the city. And what I liked about this home was privacy. I have fruit trees around the perimeter, and there's a fence, like a wire fence, and back of the commercial structure is actually, visible from my house. It's olive green and it looks pleasant. I think the project is a positive addition to the neighborhood. I guess my concern is probably selfish or personal. My daughter had a baby like 7 weeks ago. So I was wondering, when is the project going to start? How long you anticipate the project is going to last? Are they going to work from, 8 to 5 or 7 to 3? So those are some of my issues, that it's going to alter our, enjoyment of being here. So I see that it says, I should have been more involved, but I wasn't until now. I've got the letter. There's going to be bike parking, I guess, bike racks towards the fence, where the fence is now. It's just privacy. I just don't want the neighborhood to see right through my backyard. I don't want my fruit trees to be killed. I have a plum tree there. I have a tangerine. I have lime and apple. And
Senator, that's a 2-minute comment period. If you want to make a final comment.
Pardon me?
That is your 2-minute comment period.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have put down. I didn't realize it was 2 minutes. So just privacy and security. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry. I should have put down.
And it looks like that was our final speaker. If there are no more hands.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Armstrong. So we will close the public hearing portion of this item and bring it back to the commission. So do we have any questions from commissioners?
I had one question about the comment that OHA made, if now's a good time to ask that. I was wondering if the applicant had a response about the community space. Oh, sorry, everybody else has their hand up. I just flipped to the screen that's not that.
Yeah, they just raised them. You're good.
Okay. So does the applicant have a response as to whether that's possible?
So the reason that there is the 2 windows instead and the door on this side is this is actually the storage space for the area. So we were trying to keep it utilitarian. We also feel like, there is plenty of these style of buildings throughout the neighborhood. I think the one next door, they do have the side entries. So it is in character with these designs. So that was our intention, was to keep with the design, but then also still allow the space to be usable. I think the door on the front would prevent some of the space as using to be able to be used.
I guess I don't entirely follow that, but if my fellow commissioners do, I might not just be looking at the right. I'm looking at what you have at, which let me. I don't know if there's anything that better illustrates that.
So if you look here on the south elevation, this smaller little section of the building is more storage and maintenance. And so it has the the doors on the side to be able to have a double door, to be able to get things in and out. And then I think if you look like this little house here, this door's on the side versus being prominent in the front.
I have kind of a related question. If I can just skip to the front, I know two people raised their hand in front of me, but it is part of this topic. So can you just describe a little more about the vision of the community center? Is it there to serve the public, or is it there to serve the folks in the development, or both?
It is there to serve the people in the development. So our original intention was to have it as you would have in any kind of community, smaller neighborhood, that they do have a lounge space or a spot to have kind of, you know, birthday parties or that sort of thing. That's the original intention of it. Obviously, the residents could choose to use it as a community space, but it wouldn't be open or rentable by the public.
Excuse me, this is the secretary. And Lisa, I do want to point out, I believe your architect has their hand raised, Toby, and the attendees.
Great.
Did you want her to help you answer this?
That would be great, yeah.
And I would ask if you could put a site plan up as well in lieu of the elevations, just Commissioner Fern and Longchamp's question as well.
So I've promoted Toby to panelist.
I basically want to say that the reason we've resisted moving the door to the front is that the building is very narrow. It's around 15 feet wide. And so what that means, if you put a door, even if it weren't storage, it would end up being almost useless. This is the former, it would end up being almost useless because it would just be all door and circulation. Whereas if we moved it around the edge, you would at least could use the front of the building. I also wanted to address a little bit about the comments about the windows and the elevation. They actually reflect the windows on the side. And because our windows are on the side face exits, I wanted to have, when they opened, the operable pieces on top, because it's over 5'5" off the ground. So it wouldn't impede any exiting. So and the one that's recessed, that's flipped, is more recessed from the side yards. So once I started doing this window, I just used it on the front. And that's how it got there. So it was really for one, the usability of the front portion of the space, whether or not it is storage or not. And then so we went ahead in the previous one and now centered the windows. So it has a much more form. In our one before this, we had the door and a window off to the side to maintain some side space. And now I just went ahead and centered it in the space. So that's how I got there.
Mr. Monchamp or Commissioner Friend, do you have any questions for the architect related to that?
I actually have a question about the windows, which is not the door. So if Fern still has a question about the door, go for it. No, okay. On the windows, I'm not sure I quite understand. So the operable part is the larger part, the top part?
Yes.
And then you want it on the top so that it's farther off the ground, or why is it?
Correct. So it was mainly so it wouldn't hit people using the exit way. So that's why, when it opens.
The window is going to be above someone's head?
Yes.
And you said it was 5 feet something?
Yeah, 5 foot. It's about 5'4" above grade. So I wanted some window lower down and then, window above it.
It's going to be hard for short people to open those windows, but okay. Because I agree with Ms. Schiff's comment that having one of them the other way doesn't make sense. And I think from a historic perspective, transoms are usually on the top. So I get the comment. From the operability standpoint, I get for ground floor windows, wanting it to not hit people in the head for sure. but I didn't know if it was a safety concern or whatnot.
It was also additional security. I mean,
Yeah.
so.
I think
the other thing is, I just want to say one other thing. These are the windows we were using in the other project, so that's how they morphed here. You know, on the project on Chestnut. So that's how they, you know, I was trying to keep within the whole vocabulary of it. So there are pieces of these windows. So the windows are the same operable windows that you see. And then I added a transom to make them taller.
Got it. Maybe go back to the prior, showed both of them. I get that window's recessed, so it makes it possible to flip it, but I do think, to me, visually, it would be better if you flip that one, at least so they're all consistent, but that's just a minor detail in the scheme of this. But thank you for explaining the functionality of it.
Great, thank you.
And short people can get a stool, I guess.
Great, thank you, Toby. Commissioner Hegde, do you have any questions?
I do, but two of them were already addressed, so thank you, Commissioner Monchamp. I was wondering, well, first I want to just say, like, I deeply appreciate the developer's intention to provide housing for the workforce. And I guess this is for staff, but I'm curious about how that fits in with the affordable impact fee. And maybe if staff could explain that would be helpful.
Yes.
Can we, so sorry, I just want to get a clarification on the question first. Are you asking a question akin to the one for the first item where you'd like to know how they intend to meet the requirements of the impact fee ordinance?
Yes, and I guess out of curiosity, how, for my benefit and for the benefit of the public, to just walk through how workforce housing, like moderate income, fits into the affordable impact requirements.
So I don't, and I'm giving staff a little bit of time to come up with an appropriate response to this. So the analysis that's going to be in this staff report and for this project will be specific to this project. So that's a little bit more of a general question. If you'd like us to come back with an info item in the future to go over how the different types of affordability.
I want it specifically for this project.
Okay, so just to be really clear that the response will be specific to this project and may not be general to the different levels of affordability. And with that, Jason?
Yes, well, this is a standard procedure for any affordable unit that applicant does not include. The impact fees applies across the board based on the zones. As we indicated on a previous case on my colleague, this is generally will be assessed at the time of a building permit, but whether this fund, where does it go and how is being spent and where is going to be allocated for the affordable housing, that's a different questions. But we surely going to collect impact fees for 12 residential units.
Yeah, that's great. And that doesn't answer my question of how does this project's goal of focusing housing towards workforce housing and that level of affordability fit into our affordable impact policies?
I can get back to you on these questions so I can discuss it with my supervisor and superior to get back to you on that issue.
Okay, and then kind of moving in that direction, it's not clear to me in the conditions of approval that there is a requirement that the developer actually provide this project at those levels that of affordability that they've mentioned. So how would we ensure that that happens?
Well, we do not issue a building permit until the impact fees has been paid.
But I think what you're asking about is this applicant is indicating that their intent is to build workforce housing. So maybe we need to look to the applicant to help answer your question.
Well, and hold on, let me step in. This is Brian Mulry from the City Attorney's Office. It's my understanding that Jordan Flanders from our office is an assigned attorney on this project. So I think she's here to speak on the topic.
Thanks, Brian. This is Jordan Flanders. So I just wanted to answer briefly and in general terms, the affordable impact fee does have an on-site option to provide 10% moderate income. But my understanding is that this project is not proposing that. It might be a goal, but the applicant is shaking his head. So please correct me if I'm wrong about the specifics of this project. But as for the ordinance, a project does have the option of providing 10% moderate income, which would include a regulatory agreement to restrict those units to moderate income.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I in the past have seen very clear statements in the staff report about affordability levels. And so since that wasn't clear in this report, I just wanted to hear more.
I see Heather Klein's hand is raised if you'd like to speak.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chair Lamone, members of the commission, Heather Klein with the Bureau of Planning. This project is not considered an affordable housing project. It was not submitted as such, hence the fact that there is no condition of approval like you would normally see restricting units to certain affordability. Now the applicant may want to market or provide those units to a different level of affordability, but it's not a city requirement. And so they do not get out of payment of the affordable housing impact fees or any other sort of regulatory requirement that would be required pursuant to those ordinances. And I'm sure that they have their hands up and would like to speak to this, but that is our understanding of the project. And should they want to essentially include affordable housing at restricted levels in their project, then the project would need to be revised. That is our typical process. And we've had, applicants go through, a planning process and then be like, oh, really? Do I have to pay these affordable housing impact fees? They're not exactly what I thought they would be. They're, not, I can't make the project pencil. And so I actually do want to take advantage of, providing affordable housing in the project. And so that requires a revision to the project.
And would that revision need to come back to us as the commission? Or would that be, would that go to staff?
If the applicant is agreed.
My understanding is that it would have to come back to planning. You made the original decision regarding the project and the conditions of approval. So that change would need to come back to you as well.
Thank you. And I would love to hear what the applicant has to say on that.
Okay, and before the applicant speaks, the way I heard the applicant present it was that is their targeted demographic is middle income, entering the workforce, and which is consistent with many of their other projects around Oakland, where it's at a price point that's affordable towards that demographic. So, but Seth, please feel free to clarify.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Lamone. Correct, and I'm sorry for the confusion on this. This project is not an affordable project. So Heather and Jason were both correct there. I think that's our goal. I think as a firm and all of the housing that we're building. Some of the projects that hopefully we can come before you guys in the future will include, some actual affordable housing and an affordable housing component. This is not one of them. So this is more, what the project is designed around, and basically who we, as you mentioned, Mr. Lamone, try to focus on serving and what we see as a big need in the housing problem of Oakland and the greater Bay Area. But this project is not an affordable project.
That's really helpful clarification. And thank you, Heather. That was super helpful. Thanks.
Thank you for raising that, Commissioner Hegde. Commissioner Shirazi, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I think I had a similar question, but let me just dive in a little bit more. I also just want to echo the appreciation for really focusing in on missing middle housing, as we've seen from all of our RENA reports and numbers on our housing. That's a very big need in Oakland. I'd like to just ask what we're defining, since this is not necessarily coordinating with city guidelines, how the applicant is defining middle income housing, sort of what the range of income or rents may be. And then I didn't see either in the project presentation or in the staff report what the mix of housing itself is going to be. I see that there's 12 three-story townhomes, the range of square footage, but can you talk a little bit about how many bedrooms and things like that?
If I may respond, this is basically the entire project consists of 3 sets of building. Building 1 is 3 units, and each unit consists of 1,700 square feet. And building 2 contains 6 residential units, all form of townhouses. And one of they're all 1,700 square feet, except the unit 10 is about 2,100, which is they're targeting for bigger family. So there are range of the different type of size of the unit in this.
Well, I'm more curious about how many bedrooms that translates to.
How many bedrooms? There are 2 to 3 bedrooms.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And then, yeah, I would like to know sort of what the range, or how the applicant's defining middle income housing.
I'm sorry, I have a difficulty to hear that.
Sorry, what we're defining as middle income housing for this project, what the range of rents or incomes that you're targeting is?
That's something that I believe applicants should respond to that questions.
Yeah, sorry, Commissioner Shirazi, I'm having a hard time hearing you. I think you asked what the income ranges were around middle income housing. I think Oakland median income is $78,000, give or take. And so I think what we designed are, from actually 3 to 4 bedroom townhouses that the idea that it can house either what we call a 21st century family, which may not fit the mold of a, what's called a traditional nuclear family. One example that kind of drove this design idea was Riaz, our principal, who grew up in a family where his father and mother divorced and both ended up living together with Riaz and his grandma and his sister in one house. And I think one thing we found as we've been building housing is there's nowhere and no new housing stock being provided that could allow for a situation like that. I think we see this in a lot of different other buildings and units that we own around the city, whether it's a roommate situation or a family situation. So what we've done is tried to move a lot of the interior space into the private bedroom space. We've added a bathroom onto every bedroom and tried to allow for more privacy and a more dynamic living situation. And so I think the focus is on, anybody making around median income, which is around $78,000, being able to rent a private space for themselves or their family, or a combined group of families around there as well.
So they are actually 3 to 4 bedrooms, not 2 to 3 bedrooms. That's a clarification?
Correct.
Okay. And you're shooting for each room to hit an occupant that's around the median income. So 4 bedroom would be about 30% of 4 times 78,000. Am I doing quick math right?
Yeah, sorry, I heard the 78,000. I missed the first part.
Sorry, I'm on a bus, so I know it's really choppy. And
no, don't worry. I know you're out of town.
No, I'm just wondering because I think just what you described is great. I think that's actually a really important component that we don't discuss enough, coming from one of those households in my childhood myself. But I guess I'm wondering if then we're targeting, say, a 3-bedroom house that would then have a rental base of, with the assumption that 3 people make $78,000, or if we're targeting, you know, a 3-bedroom house that's more targeted for 2 people making $78,000 with a child, because those are just very different ranges. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think it could be either, and I think that's the idea. And so I think, and 78,000 is the area median income. I think we hope that anybody making $55,000 to $60,000 fit into the group that we're targeting. And so it's not specifically based on the exact $78,000 number as a floor, so to speak. And so I think 2 parents making around the area median income amount, and a child or multiple children, you know, maybe a grandma or a grandpa, or 3 roommates who are, you know, single income professionals or entry level professionals, that would apply to all of them. Does that help?
Yeah, so you don't actually have no, that's very helpful, thank you. But you don't actually have a range for the rents at this point, is that correct?
Not exactly, but it'll be somewhere around there, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Shirazi, I think it's safe to say that, you know, they're essentially market rate developers. It's an alternative to some of the more luxurious, more amenity filled apartments that are in the downtown and Jack London area. But you know, they do attract a younger tenant base, from my understanding, that are seeking to be connected, and so they provide that through various amenities, like this community room for this small project would be an attractive selling point, I think. Commissioner Fern, you have your hand up still?
Yeah, I'm still looking at this community room. I just have one question. I think it may be just for Toby. It definitely looks, you know, I think the changes that were made have kind of addressed a little of my concerns about having the maintenance facility kind of facing the street, because it does feel a little inconsistent with the fabric of the street there. Did you guys look at flapping the maintenance room? I mean, how are you expecting that kind of yard functioning, given the fact that you're having those 2-yard trash bins, those 3-yard trash bins there? It seems like that's a kind of a utilitarian area of the project. Was there a reason why you put the maintenance and storage where you did, and not kind of coupled all that together?
I guess what I can say is that we're looking at all the opens, you know, it's sort of like a courtyard open space. The maintenance, the trash ended up there mainly because we were trying to keep it away from some other neighbors, and we moved it around, and we see that tan space in front of it as being more like the barbecue area, and we do a lot of nice work on even the parking areas, so we don't see those as necessarily negative. So we see it opening up as that way. And, you know, we were trying to provide much more like our open space, like it is much more like an urban street between, you know, on the top part of the project, where you can see it's much more like a walkable street. So we see it not as major gatherings, but these little sort of gathering areas around the project. And that the community room was really, you know, for gatherings of the units, and that they would just all have access. And we studied the trash a lot, and really it ended up there because we thought it would be the least impactful to all of our neighbors.
I see. Okay, I appreciate the context there. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any additional questions from the commission? Okay. If we could move on to public comments. Let's start with Commissioner Shirazi, if she
Yeah, if you can hear me. I want to just, yeah, I think this is great. I think that I really appreciate the focus on middle income housing. I think that, you know, I'm not the design person, so I understand that there's some questions about the doors and the windows and such. And hope those get worked out. But I appreciate the thoughtfulness that's gone into how to structure these so that there's both open space, but communal space, but private space, and allowing for intergenerational families to be in the same space without requiring them to be on the outskirts of town, which is sort of what we've always done. So I think this is a nice project, and excited to see it moving forward.
Great, thank you. And Commissioner Shirazi. Commissioner Monchamp.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with those comments, and I think that they've addressed a lot of the concerns. I realize OHA had those two remaining concerns. I think I understand why the building needs to be the way it is, with the idea that I think they should change that one window. But I support the project. I think it's a good reuse of the site. And I like public art.
Thank you. Commissioner Hegde.
Yeah, thanks. I want to just appreciate the intention of providing housing more than like 1 or 2 bedrooms to families, to middle income families that is often more ignored. And I also was concerned about the issues that OHA raised, but similar to what Commissioner Monchamp said, it seems like that they have good reasoning behind it. So just wanted to make sure it was my appreciation for creating housing for middle income families was recognized. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Fern.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman Moore. Not too much to add. I'll just echo what my fellow commissioner said. I think it's well designed. I think it is an improvement on what is there, and again, speaks to just getting a more diverse housing stock within the city of Oakland for different price points and different families. And I appreciate it, and I think should recognize developer for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hegde, you have your hand up. Did you want to add something?
Not at all. I just forgot to put it down.
Okay. Okay. Vice Chair Manis.
So nice to see projects like this, both the project sponsor and the project architect both trying to find the best fit for the projects. My fellow commissioners dug in on the window and the Linden Street frontage, and I probably don't need to opine more on that. I would just encourage the project architect to look a little bit more on some other way to address the Linden Street frontage. I understood the programmatic needs is looking at the plan, but you know, it could be just a touch friendlier, even if it's not the reality there. But with that, I'm also very comfortable with the way the project has evolved and the kind of tendency that it'll be able to accommodate. So thank you, Chair Lamont.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Lang, I'm sorry to bring up another question, but it was the commenters, the neighbor, Sine Chan, wanted to know when do you plan on this project to commence, and you know, how long, the duration of the project and hours of construction, if you could just inform us.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think, actually, I forgot to address her comments as well. I think the start date is probably going to be early next year, 2022 is my guess, once we get through the building department. And we expect it to take about 12 to 14 months. I think one of the benefits of not building a podium is quick construction. And so this one should be finished, you know, I'd say start early 2022 and end early 2023 is our expectation. And, you know, I think we've addressed some of the screening privacy concerns with podocarpus screen in the back and, you know, fencing between neighboring properties. So I've tried to receive those comments as well and incorporate them.
Thank you. And Commissioner Ray Lynch, I apologize. You were off my screen, so I'm sorry. But if you have a comment.
Well, just the same, pretty much as everyone else. What I do appreciate is the fact that these are townhomes, which is a very different kind of use than we see a lot of these high-rise buildings that are going in, and it's nice to see lower scale project. And I know it's tougher to make those pencil, but I think they really help to fit the community much better than a lot of the large projects that we see as a general rule. It's going to be a good use compared to what is there, obviously. And I did have some questions and some concerns about what is affordable for a teacher or a government employee. I think you sort of addressed that, but I still am concerned that these numbers are going to somehow reach what's affordable in our market may not be affordable for a teacher still. So that's still an outstanding concern I have about the affordability of trying to get to the middle income, because it's really hard to hit the middle income person when affordability is $800,000 a year for $800,000 for a unit. So, it's hard, but it is what it is in that case. So, anyway, but the design is good, and I think it works for the community, and it works for the look of the buildings that are there. So,
great.
My comments.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Lynch, and my apologies again. Yeah, I really don't have anything more to add, except, I do appreciate you working closely with Oakland Heritage Alliance. I personally take their comments very seriously, and, I appreciate you staying ahead of it. And then also, your 400-foot outreach, that was very impressive. And then, you included that in your application or your submittal, proof of mailing. So anyways, I agree with the commissioners. So with that, do we have a motion?
Chair Lamone would like to move that we affirm staff's environmental determination and that we approve the major conditional use permit, the minor conditional use permits, and regular design reviews subject to attached findings and the condition.
Great. And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Commissioner Fern.
That was a first from Vice Chair Manis and a second from Commissioner Fern. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll call the roll. Commissioner Moncha?
Yes.
Commissioner Hegde?
Yes.
Commissioner Shirazi?
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Lynch?
Yes.
Commissioner Fern?
Yes.
Vice Chair Manis?
Yes.
And Chair Lamone?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously, and this decision is appealable to City Council within 10 days.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for that. Thank you to the staff also and the project team. So moving on to item 3.
Yes, and if I might, through the chair, before we get to item 3, a couple of people the chair has noted, but in addition, a couple of people amongst the attendees have noted that not all of the commissioners have your cameras on. You don't have your videos on. And so because you've agreed in the past to do this for consistency's sake, we kindly ask that you keep your cameras on so that the public can see who's in attendance. Thank you. And with that, moving on to item 3, 415 20th Street. This is a proposal for a new office tower in the Central Business District. And the planner for this project is Rebecca Lind. And I might point out, because we have received some letters about the address, that the APN is included in the project description as well, and in the case file information. So if anyone has any confusion about where this is located, the APN is the correct location for the project. And with that, Rebecca Lind does have a presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Excuse me, gotta clear my voice here. I've been listening intently, not speaking. So good afternoon. We are asking the commission this afternoon to have this public hearing to consider the proposed development at 415 20th Street. There are 4 discretionary permits before you this afternoon. First is design review, also a major conditional use permit, and 2 variances to the maximum setback. I'm going to briefly go over how we can meet the findings for those discretionary permits for this project. There is detailed information in the staff report. I'm just going to provide a summary. There are a lot of issues, and it's a large building. So first of all, design review. This building meets our design standards for a tower in the CBD zone with respect to height, bulk, and massing for street activation and the building design. It has 862,048 gross square feet of office floor area and a maximum height of 623 feet. Design review findings can be made because this 38-story tower has an interesting design that adds to the interest of the downtown with dominant structural elements forming an X pattern. The applicant will be giving a presentation, so you can experience the design there. But it has an interesting facade that's integrated throughout. The building support elements are expressed on the exterior. They come down to the street on all the facades. There are amenities provided on 3 levels: the ground floor, the top of the parking podium, and the observation tower. Those elements help create a visual break. That is one of the things that our design guidelines call for in the downtown. The tower is also narrower above the podium, which meets our upper story massing standards. There is some differentiation between the base and the middle of the building, which complies also with our standards. And we have an exterior recessed plaza that creates a corner element at 20th and Franklin Streets, and also creates active ground space, active ground floor street activity. This project was reviewed by the DRC, and a recommendation was made to forward to the Planning Commission. The DRC did make some changes which are incorporated in the project design. So moving on to the major conditional use permit. This permit is triggered by the size and the height of the tower. There are a number of early review issues that have been addressed throughout the project design and comments from the public concerning design and operating characteristics of the project, transportation issues, shadow, wind, bird fly, construction management, and community involvement. When the project was before the design review committee, the committee requested additional public involvement, which the applicant provided, and I'm hoping they will address that in more detail. We have received 2 letters of support, which were forwarded to the commission, 2 letters of opposition, also addressed to the commission, and 1 general comment, neither a pro or con, but offering comment. We have found that the findings for conditional use permit can be made for this project. This is documented in detail in attachment A, but in general and in sort of summary form, the project is consistent with the general plan vision for the downtown, which is a particularly important point because of the massive scale of this building. It would become the tallest building upon construction. The location at adjacent to the 19th Street BART station is prioritized in the general plan for high intensity office development, which is telling us that both the land use plan and the zoning are anticipating this kind of height and mass at this location. The project is an appropriate fit in this downtown location, also because it facilitates a transit-oriented development that encourages workers to use alternate modes of transportation. This information is documented in the transportation analysis, which you can find in the appendix, but we are anticipating up to 50% transit ridership for a project of this type. The project height and mass will not create shadow impacts on historic resources or create wind impacts as conditioned. There is an 8-foot-high wind screen on the parking podium on the 6th floor as it faces 20th Street, and that's shown in the project plans on page 16, and I'm going to ask the applicant to point that out when they do their presentation. That is recommended as a site-specific condition of approval. There was quite a lot of discussion about the top of the building, both from the aesthetic point of view and also for the bird flyway design requirements, which we do address through our standard conditions of approval. The design review committee did make some modifications to the building crown, adding some subdued lighting to address that bird flyway issue. And then for project management, we have standard conditions of approval that address project management. This is of concern to citizens in the area, and you have received some comments about that in the comment letters. So moving on to the minor variances, I'm going to explain this a little bit because they're not really intuitive. The maximum setback requires this project, excuse me, not explaining it well. This project requires 2 variances of the maximum setback. One is in the vertical plane and the other is in the horizontal plane. So on the vertical plane, it's most apparent when you look at the plaza at the corner of Franklin and 20th Street. What the design shows you is some large pillars that do come down to the ground level at the maximum setback of 5 feet, but they do not have a continuous building wall. They are open going into the interior of the plaza, and that does not comply with the requirements of the code. So the first maximum setback variance is to allow the actual building wall at a maximum of up to 33 feet on the 20th Street side and 13 feet on the Franklin Street side in order to have the continuity of the design around that corner. The second variance is for the vertical plane. The code regulates the maximum setback within the first 2 or second or third story of a building up to a height of 35 feet. And in this case, because of the same situation with the pillars, the actual building wall occurs at the rear of the plaza and extends vertically approximately 32 feet to create an open and large volume of entry space that forms that corner element at 20th and Franklin. And we have provided the findings for both of those variances in attachment A. For the environmental review, the C compliance for this project is an exemption analysis provided by tiering off of the 1998 Land Use and Transportation Element EIR and also the 2011 Central District Urban Renewal Plan EIR, and by streaming provisions from the Public Resources Code and CEQA guidelines. That documentation is provided in the staff report on pages 8 and 9, and the full analysis is included as attachment D. That is the full environmental analysis. So in conclusion, I believe the project is well designed. It implements an emerging compact urban center in the downtown, and findings can be made for the major conditional use permit and variances as needed to result in a high quality project. So the recommendation is to affirm staff's environmental determination and to approve the design review, the conditional use permit, and variances of the maximum setback standards. And that's the end of the presentation. I'm available for questions. And the applicant, Kevin Chow of Hines Development, is available for a presentation. He has also members of his team available for questions. So that's the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any immediate questions for staff? No? Okay. Commissioner Mann, sorry.
Rebecca, can you just share with us the issue, or if there are any issues on any of the wind levels on pedestrian comfort at ground level? I know you touched on that, and whatever design mitigations have been incorporated, if there are issues on that, because I did look through that.
Yes, and for your reference, the detailed wind analysis is in the appendix. It is an appendix to the attachment D, because it's part of the environmental review. And there are diagrams and tables that explain the results of the wind tunnel analysis. So in this particular case, the project is required to implement a design solution to a potential wind impact that was identified through wind tunnel testing by the subconsultant for environmental review. And there is no street level impact identified. The impact was on the 6th floor at the parking podium. Now that is an area that will be a proposed public access park with elevator access to the public, and a 10-foot wind wall is proposed as a solution of that location. And I will ask the applicant to point that out as they go through their presentation. So we reviewed that with the wind consultant, and the specifics of that design will need to be reviewed at the time of the building permit.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm sure Kevin will touch on that as well.
Great, thank you. So please proceed, Kevin.
Great, thank you, commissioners. Desmona, similar to DRC, if it's possible, can you please elevate Paul Parody as well as John Picard?
Absolutely.
Once again, thank you everyone for your time this afternoon. My name is Kevin Chow, and on behalf of Hines, we're the project applicant. And in the interest of time and not having too many speakers, I'm going to hand it over to our senior partner, Paul Parody, as well as John Picard, our architect, to walk through the presentation we have for you this afternoon.
Thanks, Kevin. Good afternoon, Chairman Limon and Planning Commissioners. My name is Paul Parody, Senior Managing Director with Hines. Presenting with me is John Picard of Picard Chilton Architects. So today we're going to describe our proposed office building at the intersection of Franklin and Thomas L. Berkeley Way. To begin, I'd like to thank staff planner Rebecca Lind for her team and their careful and thoughtful coordination of this project. It's been great working with you, so thank you. This is a true Oakland project. It's right on the 19th Street BART station in the heart of Uptown. The public open spaces allow full enjoyment of the great Oakland weather. We're just a short walk to beautiful Lake Merritt. And Oakland, as you are aware, is very much in need of high quality office space to continue attracting world-class employers, which this building will do. And of course, the building will be built 100% with union labor. And finally, it'll be a beautiful addition to the Oakland skyline. We feel great about the benefits to the community. We've created 3 terrific public open spaces, our piazza on the ground level, the elevated Uptown Park, and our Sky Terrace, all of which John will describe here in a minute in more detail. We are financially supporting the Lake Merritt Institute and their incredible efforts to keep the lake water clean. We have plentiful bike and scooter parking for the public. We will integrate public art into the project by local artists, and details on that will come later. And we'll subsidize our retail to support local businesses. And along the way, we have energetically reached out to the public and addressed all of the feedback. We've even had the team go out and post flyers to augment the public noticing process. So at this time, let me introduce John Picard, and he'll describe the project in more detail. John?
I'm sorry, I'm looking for John's name. I don't see him. Would he be under a different name? Or John, if you could raise your hand and I could find you on the attendees.
Desmona, could it potentially be under Benjamin Simmons?
Let's take a look.
Yeah, probably Ben KHA.
Yep, that's the one. Thank you. Okay, John, are you there? If you can unmute yourself.
Oh, I think that's a different Ben, I believe.
Kevin, yeah, it is. It's Ben Fleener with Kendall Heaton.
Okay, let me see if we can get John and his team to just raise their hand.
Oh, Salvin, is that, I see something blinking.
No, Savlon is with the improvement district, I believe.
Okay. So I'm not sure if he.
Yeah, if you could give us a name so we can identify. We're not seeing hands raised that correspond with a John or a Ben at all.
Okay.
And nobody else is raising their hand.
There's someone named Sung.
No, let me bear with me for a moment while I.
They're definitely here. We're contacting them. Sorry to confuse us here.
Yeah, and so if you can just get their, even if you can get their Zoom name, their Zoom handle, that would be great because we do have 4 hands raised.
What are the Zoom names that you have?
I have Zinafan, Barbara, Salvin, and Siang. And I do have some phone numbers, so maybe they might be a call-in person.
You have a 203 area code?
510 only, it looks like.
So I just spoke with the team. They are on the call. For some reason, you guys can't see their names, so they're logging off and logging right back on. So I apologize.
And let's get their phone number and Zoom name, Kevin.
Yes.
So I'm gonna lower the hands, and so if that person could just raise their hand if they get on. And I do apologize. You will need to raise your hand again once the public comment period starts. So you do have normally a 15-minute presentation time. So just be mindful of your time as we're waiting for your third person.
Got it. Thank you.
We haven't seen any new participants join, but if you can let us know a name.
So Desmond, Ben Simmons, Simmons, said that he's back in and he's raised his hand.
I still have Ben KHA only. So I'm not sure what he's logging into.
Okay. So yeah, they've indicated that they can see everything that's going on right now. So
they must have a different name that they're using as their Zoom handle. So if you could please get that Zoom handle name for us, that would help.
Will do. Thank you.
I have.
Yeah.
All right. I think it's under, is it Shanungung? I think that was the original one.
Okay. Go ahead and raise your hand again. And I'm gonna allow.
It's at the top.
Yeah, can you speak?
Yes, well, you're here. Can you hear us?
Yes. So I'm gonna promote you to panelist right now, so give me 1 second. All right, you can now share your screen, you will need to unmute yourself again. There you are. If you're speaking, we cannot hear you.
We are here. Can you hear us?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. We apologize for that rather exciting introduction. You'd think by now, after hundreds of Zooms, that this system would work. But let me get to the point, and we'll make our presentation succinctly. I'll begin by simply saying how honored we are to be a part of the project. I think, as Paul mentioned, the project is really a positive outgrowth of a collaborative partnership, obviously with our client Hines, but I think in particular, we've worked side by side with Rebecca and the DRC, and we're particularly proud of the project that we have before you. Let's start with just an overview. I think the commissioners are going to be quite familiar with the location at 20th and Franklin. Obviously, a project of this significance is very appropriate for the priority district, literally perched as it is above the 19th Street BART. And you can see, we're particularly excited about it is in the heart of the growing vitality of Oakland and so very close to Lake Merritt, which is we see as one of the great benefits for the project. Rebecca mentioned that it's tall, and at over 600 feet, it certainly is. I think the thing that we are particularly proud of, though, is not necessarily the height, but rather the character, the dignity, the timeless quality of the architecture that I believe will speak to the vitality of Oakland for decades to come. Now, this view, just to say, is not a view that you'll often see. This is obviously up at about the 15th, 18th floor, but I think it does give you a sense of how the building will be positioned within the city. We spent a lot of time with the DRC looking at how the building will be seen to make sure that it was appropriate. And then here you see it in a more conventional view. And I think one of the things that we'll talk about at length is how the building it feels appropriate to Oakland. Also, Paul mentioned these three important public spaces, two of which you see very vividly in this view, what we call Uptown Park, which is at the base of our tower. It's marked by those kind of diagonal components, and then the Sky Terrace at the very apex of the tower. So the basic facts that Rebecca touched on, but there are three important spaces. There's the piazza, the Uptown Park, and then Sky Terrace. These are public spaces available to all citizens of Oakland. And I think one of the things that is critical for us is this will be a project which will be one of the first major office buildings coming on the heels of this tragedy we've all lived through. And so we're thinking of it as a next generation office building. But one of the things that's very important as well is Oakland is in a, how should we say, challenging seismic zone. And we want the folks that work in the building to not just be safe, but to feel safe. And so part of the structural system that gives rigidity to this building is going to be expressed and becomes an important part in the character of the building that you see. And that's in those kind of the diagonals that are subtly expressed on the exterior of the building. And then the building comes down and those diagonals make their way all the way to the ground. And this, of course, is a view at the corner of 20th and Franklin, showing the piazza, which we'll talk about in some detail here in a moment, and then Uptown Park. And then the zone in between is about 260 parking spaces that is available for that's a private parking for the tenants in the building. Of course, as Rebecca mentioned, the vast majority of people coming here will be using mass transit, BART in particular. So this is the ground floor. And if we were designing this building in an earlier era, what you would have expected to see in lieu of what we are referring to as the piazza, the kind of yellow zone there on the corner of 20th and Franklin, that would be the lobby. And the glass would have come out and it would have been right on the property line. And what would happen is the public would not have been welcomed into our project. And what Hines wants to do is to allow the glass to be pulled back, as Rebecca mentioned, to allow the public to come in. Because if that glass wall was at the property line, no one would, unless you're wearing a fancy, three-piece suit or something, you wouldn't be comfortable coming into that lobby. In this concept, what we've done is the building reaches out to the city and invites the city in. And we think it's the right thing for Oakland. It's also the right thing, frankly, for the tenants, because we see the piazza as a way to extend the vitality of that building. And we'll go through in great detail how we bring the piazza to life, how we carefully manage it. Important note while I'm on this drawing, though, you see those two elevators, they're marked in kind of yellow at the top. Those elevators will provide a direct public access to what we refer to as Uptown Park. You'll also see a significant number of parking spaces for the bikes and so forth. And then all of the services, that are required to make the building are kind of tucked in the back. So in essence, we have vital active street uses on both key public faces of the project. And this diagram shows the little pink zones are retail, where at the moment we're envisioning a coffee shop right on the piazza, and then another retail center up in Uptown Park, and then the glass enclosed public elevators that will take you up to Uptown Park. And of course, this is just an artist's conception of what that could be. Much refinement to come, but you can see, for instance, that there's a large kind of glass garage door that opens up to allow the cafe to interact with the piazza. There'll be comfortable places for everyone to sit, to work, Wi-Fi activated, beautiful lighting, and generous amounts of landscape. One of the things that we're excited about is the Oakland climate is, from a perspective of New Englander, is quite spectacular. And that's, in fact, what allows a space like this to really come to life and to be practical. And I think one of the things that's important to understand is, for this space to be successful, it has to be thoughtfully managed. And I've had the pleasure of collaborating with Hines for well over 3 decades. And I can tell you with total conviction that that's what Hines does, and does wonderfully. So we'll start with careful, thoughtful, sensitive security. There'll be active uses, dedicated food, beverage, retail carts, flower carts, programming. So the space will feel alive. It's the right thing for Oakland, and it's the right thing for the building. Here you see the base of the podium. We worked very carefully with the DRC to make sure that it was appropriate, thoughtfully detailed. The character of the building is going to be very rich. It's vertically dominant. You can see those large columns that soar up the side of the tower, and then the X bracing that stabilizes the tower. And when you come up to Uptown Park, it's really more than ever today, an exterior space is critical, not just for the public, but for the global tenants that we're attracting to this project. We all want to be outdoors. And what we're envisioning, there'll be a lawn for sort of public gatherings you see in the upper left, but there'll be places for exterior conference rooms that are thoughtfully buffered from the wind. Rebecca talked about the 8-foot windscreen. You can see that on the top of the screen in kind of blue. That windscreen, when we did our pedestrian wind analysis, we had uncomfortable winds. By adding that glass screen there, we made the winds extremely comfortable so people can spend most of their time on this beautiful park. Park is literally approaching 3/4 of an acre in size, and it'll be wonderfully landscaped by the office of James Burnett. And then you can see now, looking down, you've got the gathering lawn on the left, musical concerts and events, and then places. This zone will receive southern light, so it's going to be quite marvelous. I think one of the things that I'm excited about is the dignity of the project. It soars, it's vertically dominant, and it's organized around, I'll call it classical principles of a base, a middle, and a top. And each component is very thoughtfully conceived. So the base is rich, vital, inviting. Uptown Park, the same. And then finally, when the building meets the sky, there's a gorgeous crown that will be beautiful during the day, but it'll also be beautiful at night. And I think to make it even more interesting, so often when tall buildings reach the sky, it's all about mechanical equipment, about cooling towers. And what is unique to this project is that the crown is actually a public gathering place. There will be human beings up there. There's lush landscape. There'll be fabulous views back over the city. And of course, behind this, the project would not be successful unless we could deliver to the most demanding global tenants the kind of workplace that they require. And they require maximum planning efficiency. They require an environment where their employees can achieve their full potential. And so I'm not going to get into too many details, but I can assure you that within the details, these floor plates are state of the art. They would not have been done this way 1 year ago. Mechanical systems, you name it. It will truly attract to Oakland the best of the world's corporate leaders. And just to talk about a little bit about what are the things that are a little different in this building than you might have seen a couple of years ago. Well, first of all, exterior space is so important. We spend our days on Zoom, assuming they work. And so being able to get out, be on a conference call, not at your desk, and do a walk. And so in the project, we've got 2 walking loops, one at the top of the tower, another at the Uptown Park, each an 1/8 of a mile in length. We've got something silly, washrooms, totally different than the washrooms that you know in a typical commercial office building. They're private. The sink, the water closet are all in one space. People are safe. Mechanical systems, state of the art. Again, these are things that will attract the finest to downtown Oakland. And that's great for the project, and it's great for the city. And then finally, here you see a detail of the crown, highly articulated. What you'll see during the day is you'll see the trees. The glass is being very carefully developed, so it's quite clear. You'll see at times the sky through it. We're working side by side with a very respected avian consultant to make sure that the project, in all respects, is going to be respectful of the birds. And you can begin to see some of the detail that's not just in the crown, but also in the tower. The tower is very thoughtfully detailed. It is the opposite of your conventional flush glass box. It's rich, it's articulate. There's lighting that's integrated into it. It's going to be quite marvelous. And I think for me, what's most exciting is at the top of the tower, there'll be spaces that people will really want to be a part of. So this is at the kind of the south corner of the building. You're looking back to downtown Oakland, back to San Francisco. We've got a series of kind of amphitheater style bleacher seating to look out with the landscape. And this would be a great place for people to come up and have their lunch or their cup of coffee. And so at night, what happens is instead of being this mute mechanical zone, the mechanical's all been carefully wrapped up, you get this wonderful park in the sky or sky terrace. And what you're seeing there, these little white dots of light, we refer to as fireflies. We're working with a very respected lighting consultant, Quentin Thomas, to have a series of these lights that kind of float through space and bring animation to it. And of course, you'll not be surprised, all the lighting has been carefully designed to be respectful of the night sky. So the building will have a presence, but it'll be a gentle presence and appropriate to our times. And then here you see the project again, back from Lake Merritt, with those public spaces, very visible. And then finally, a building that I believe will truly stand for a next generation office place, and in my opinion, makes Oakland become truly a world-class city. So you have Oakland and San Francisco that begin this wonderful conversation, and the building will take its place, and hopefully we'll be proud of it for decades to come. So I will turn it back to the chair, and obviously we're delighted to answer questions at the appropriate time.
Great, thank you, Paul. So if we have an immediate question for the applicant, I'm happy to take those, or we can just move forward with the public hearing. Okay, so we'll move ahead and open up the public hearing portion of this item.
Okay, it looks like we do have, of course, speakers for this item. The first speaker is Sullivan Hauser. If you could unmute yourself to make your comment.
Thank you. Sullivan Hauser, I'm speaking today as the chair of the Oakland Bid Alliance, and just voicing support for this really exciting project, and just want to speak to how important commercial uses like this, office in particular, having employees and workers and meetings happen here in Oakland's downtown is so important to our small business community and activating our downtown neighborhoods. So this is really exciting. And I also want to just applaud the bottom floor for being so permeable and open to the wonderful neighborhood. So this is a really exciting project, and it shows the tremendous potential of Oakland. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker, Barbara Leslie. Just one second. Okay, Barbara, you may unmute yourself to make your comment.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Good afternoon, Chairperson Lamone and members of the Commission. I am Barbara Leslie, CEO of the Oakland Chamber of Commerce and an Oakland resident. I'm here today speaking in support of the applicant for a proposed office tower at the corner of 20th and Franklin in downtown Oakland. I first became familiar with the project last year when the applicant reached out to brief the Chamber on the proposal. We were so impressed that we invited representatives from Hines to present at our economic summit last month to over 300 attendees. Suffice it to say, it was very well received. Although we acknowledge and appreciate the tremendous work to date by the developer to engage stakeholders, create a project that is consistent with existing land use policy, provide street activation and publicly accessible space, we are not the experts in the areas of mass, setbacks, and aesthetics. That is clearly the Commission's purview. For the Chamber, it's about jobs and the businesses that create them. It's about jobs for our local workforce as a result of more businesses choosing Oakland, and it's about the multiplier effect of those jobs rippling through our local retail, restaurant, and small business community. We are acutely aware of what happens when we do not have a daytime workforce in downtown Oakland. The Chamber has been intimately involved in the downtown planning process for the last few years, and the project addresses many of the key issues we have identified as critical for our economic sustainability. The project promotes downtown as a regional job center. It supports the balance of commercial development with existing housing stock. It provides a visually attractive development in the exact right location near multiple transportation options. During our recent economic summit, the presenting economist was pretty bullish on Oakland's economic recovery, but we needed to be smart enough to take advantage of the opportunities that recovery presents. We are grateful for the boldness of this project and the confidence Hines Development has in Oakland. The Chamber shares that confidence as we work towards an Oakland with a vibrant business community, a growing tax base, and a strong local workforce pipeline for all residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next comment. Xenophon, you may unmute yourself to make your comment, and do please state your full name for the record.
My name is Xenophon Artis Abraham. I'm a 47-year resident of Oakland off Euclid and Palm Avenue. How's everybody doing? I am not specifically in objection of the project, but in its current configuration. At 864,000 square feet in size, using a multiplier of roughly 250 square feet per employee, that would translate to just over 3,400 employees and add more pressure, or as some could call it, gentrification pressures, to Oakland, which is already suffering and reeling from them. I'm not opposed to large structures by any means. What was once called the Sears Tower is my favorite, but that's another story. But the simple fact of the matter is this structure that you're looking at reminds me of King Kong waiting for Godzilla to come and battle, which leads to the question, where's King Kong? Where's Godzilla? It looks, in another photograph the developers provided, like it's wistfully staring at San Francisco. The best solution is live work. If you want us to enjoy the park, let us live in the structure. It would absorb, to a great degree, the housing pressures that it's going to exact on Oakland anyway. It would create a magnificent city within a city and new revenue opportunities that would allow the project even better pencil out. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Naomi Schiff, you may unmute yourself to make your comment.
My first comment is on behalf of Oakland Heritage Alliance. That's Thomas L. Berkeley Way. And, you know, it's been that for 20 years, and it is time that we use it. Most people are used to that name. I did check on Google and surrounding addresses. People are using Thomas L. Berkeley Way. Let's use that. there are lots of 20th streets in this country. There aren't any other Thomas L. Berkeley ways that I'm aware of. So it will give you a distinctive address and also elucidate your respect for Oakland history and becoming part of the community. On my own behalf, I have a couple of other comments. One, walking loops inside, what do you need that for? Please come out on the street in Oakland and patronize our businesses, walk in our parks, and do not isolate yourselves in your tower. We don't want that. We want to see your faces on the street. And while you've made a good start with the plaza downstairs, I would encourage you to get people out there and using our local community. And last, as Savlan was talking about having good workspace, it is very important for the city of Oakland to consider where people are going to live. BART, before the COVID, was at capacity. Everybody is really not going to be able to come on BART. We're going to need some people to live locally. So I would really appreciate if people would consider really where is the workforce going to live, not only the guys up on the 59th floor, but the people who clean and work in these companies at lower rates of pay. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. The next speaker is a caller. The last four digits of your number are 1488. You may unmute yourself by hitting *6.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you.
State your name for the record.
Thank you. Yes, good afternoon. My name is Joe Hornoff. I live at 1770 Broadway, a 47-unit apartment building within 300 feet of this project. I have attended all meetings which have been announced. I'm opposed to this project as it is proposed. This tower is enormous. There are a number of issues which warrant further review. There is no need to rush this. I sent you a letter on Monday. I hope you had a chance to read it. 415 20th Street is not a legal address. The address and the signage on this project should read 415 Thomas L. Berkeley Way. I sent you the ordinance which states this clearly. Why do you wish to violate the city ordinance and erase the dignity of a prominent African American who made great contributions to Oakland? Why can't we honor him instead? The 494-page report was less than a week before the meeting. I haven't had sufficient time to process the whole document. Sent you another letter this morning pointing out some initial discrepancies I found in the appendices. Hope you've had a chance to read that. The report has more problems than I had the opportunity to report. I don't think you understand the extreme impact the construction surrounding us has impacted our lives on a day-to-day basis. The noise from the 1900 Broadway project has directly led to the displacement of at least 6 people in my building. They were forced to move out. We have filed complaints documenting mining violations. Stop work orders have been issued, but the city lacks enforcement to effectively remedy the unhealthy environment it's been created. The noise and the dust from this project has been blasting us for over 2 years and looks like we have another 2 years of disruption ahead of us from the 1900 project alone. The construction timeline presented when you approved that project has no basis in reality. The impacts upon us have been tremendous. Along with the noise, we have streets and sidewalks and bus lanes that are blocked up, a stream of cement trucks which idle under our apartments, and a state of blight which has led to an increase of crime in our neighborhood. People who live across our street are selling their condos and moving out. Our neighborhood is a mess. This project does not address its additional impact upon us and future impacts after it is completed. The impact of all this nearby construction needs to be considered as a whole. The cumulative impact of all these projects within 300 feet of our apartments will make our apartments even more unhealthy, more unlivable, certainly for the foreseeable future. Most of my neighbors have given up. On their behalf, I'm speaking out again in perhaps a vain hope that you will address some of these issues before you approve yet another enormous project in such close proximity to where we live. This is very stressful for me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Asada, you may unmute yourself to make your comment.
Yes, the failure to recognize Thomas L. Berkeley Way is insulting. Mr. Berkeley was an African-American lawyer, newspaper publisher, world-class athlete. and was on the chamber of the Oakland Port Authority. As a matter of fact, he was the first African American to serve on the port. I don't know why this issue is here. If it's Thomas L. Berkeley Way, recognize it. Secondly, Oakland and San Francisco is the #1 gentrification city in the United States. This project looks like it may be a gentrification builder. I hope that's not the case, but it sure looks like it. The presentation recognized that the Carpenters Union or unions would be involved. I don't know if the developer is aware. It's not his responsibility or her responsibility, but there is currently a struggle to get the unions to incorporate having African Americans within the unions. The unions have refused to give the data that supports the disparity that we have recognized exists within the construction sites. I hope that there will be some discussion to not only recognize local residents, but to have inclusion of African Americans as a part of the workforce around any project. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. And next we have, okay, you're labeled as up, down, downtown, CBD, and can you state your full name for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Steve Snyder.
Thank
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Good afternoon, commissioners. I'm the executive director of the Uptown Downtown Community Benefit Districts. The proposed Hine development falls within the boundaries of our Lake Merritt Uptown District. Though our organization has made it a policy not to support the specifics of any new developments, we do enthusiastically support the general concept of high density developments being proposed so close to public transportation. In keeping with our organization's long-term vision for Oakland, this project continues the evolution of Oakland as a thriving and desirable 24/7 live, work, and play environment. As caretakers of the public rights of way, we are firm believers that street-level design is essential for a safe and vibrant public realm. This project, with its proposed ground-level lobby connected to a cafe and outdoor landscape area, will transform and enliven the corner of 20th and Franklin in profoundly positive ways. Currently, it's a surface level parking lot, which does not do much to enhance that corner. Just as street level is critical importance to our organization, so are community accessible green space initiatives. This proposed design of this project includes an open air park and landscape roof observation deck that could potentially be open to the general public. Commercial offices inherently bring more foot traffic to our downtown and are essential to our collective efforts to support our small businesses in the neighborhood. We encourage the Planning Commission to support this project. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. And looks like our next one, 1 second. And David Lau, you may unmute yourself to make your comment.
Hi, my name is David Lau. I live in Oakland, been an Oakland native, born in Highland Hospital, grew up here. Went to public schools, K through 12, currently a realtor. I live in West Oakland and I, try to go by downtown, occasionally. I just wanted to voice that I'm in favor of reusing the space at this intersection where I believe it's where the old Sears building used to be. I do think that it should be thought out very carefully, especially regarding how it'll support small businesses locally and also how it would benefit the public and the people who live in Oakland locally. So I do understand that there are some concerns about where the people who use the office will live. I think that's a really big part of my concern as well. Again, I'm not opposed to developing the space. I just think there's still a few open items to be addressed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I don't see any more hands. If that is, David will be the final comment if there are no more.
Okay. If any attendees would like to speak, this is your final opportunity. Okay, we will go ahead and close the public hearing portion of this item and move back to the commission. I see Commissioner Shirazi has her hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I have a couple of questions, I think for staff and for the applicants. I guess I'll start with staff. The question of jobs housing balance, I think, is a pretty important one, but do we have any data on where we're at right now with the number of jobs compared to our housing numbers?
Right. So that would be a question. We can get back to you with an answer on that. That's not a specific type of analysis that we provide under our planning code for projects. It's certainly a good question, and we'd be happy to get back to you with an answer at a future meeting. I'll invite Laura Kaminsky from Strategic.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it goes beyond this project, obviously, and I think it's something that, for us in particular, I think we're making up for some other surrounding cities in balance. So I'm just curious. My question to the applicant is about the naming and the street address. Can you talk a little bit about why it's referred to as 20th Street?
Sure. This is Paul. And you may have heard me in my introductory comments saying that the building at the intersection of Franklin and Thomas L. Berkeley Way, I tried to emphasize that. I think the address is simply a city identification approach, but we fully embrace the Thomas L. Berkeley Way street name. I have no intention of using 415 20th Street as a name. And so we're fully supportive of all the great comments about this incredible politician and hurdler and person, Thomas L. Berkeley, and want to celebrate him.
Okay, Commissioner Shirazi, do you have any other questions for the team?
I guess just a clarification on that in terms of what you mean by it's a city. I guess I just want a little more detail on why
So
it's listed as 20th.
I think the city should respond to that. So the address is listed in our permit tracking system known as Excella as 20th Street. And we don't have the entire history on the name change, but we know that the Thomas Berkeley signs are out there for the streets. And we do know that there's an ordinance, have not had a chance to go into great detail on it. I think there's an option here to have the project address as called out on the building, to have the Thomas Berkeley Way address noted on the building. And then if there are questions about why the confusion between 20th Street and Thomas Berkeley Way, I think that would be a question for either ODOT or Public Works. So we'll follow up with them and get a response back to you regarding that in the future at the next meeting.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you for a little bit of clarification on that. And then I guess one final, maybe it's more of a comment. Yeah, it is a comment. I'll hold off.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Shirazi. Vice Chair Manis.
Maybe John can respond to my earlier question about ground level pedestrian comfort analysis. You touched on the elevated park in terms of the windscreen that you created, but I just wanted you to help sort of unwind whether there was any issues at the ground level relative to pedestrian comfort levels.
No, we did a pedestrian wind level analysis, and it turned out that it complied with all criteria for comfort. You can appreciate that we want the pedestrian comfort, wind comfort, to be under control, because it would be very, very unfortunate if this became a wind tunnel. And what we understand is that we're good to go. There's enough protection from the tower, and I can't speak to the specifics of where the winds are coming from, but we're under control, and there's enough going on there between columns and whatnot to mitigate any blast through effects.
Thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions from commissioners? Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I realized it is a question. And I think it's a question for staff. I think, thinking about the trade-offs and the sort of the bigger, again, I do think it's a bigger question than this particular development, but in a development of this size and in the region that we are trying to infill, right? There are climate impacts, there's economic impacts, and just livability, quality of life issues, and we want to have development near transit and all these other reasons that we want infill located here. But really, taking to heart and considering the amount of construction that's happening for the folks that are living there, as well as the businesses. I know this has been an issue in the past with street closures and sort of blockage of frontage of buildings during construction. Is there a requirement for coordination with either DOT or planning with the community members to just sort of clarify what the process is and whether there's opportunities for mitigation or anything like that during the construction of these facilities?
Right. So this is a question I can provide a partial response to. The right here and right now, and you don't have to wait 2 weeks. The projects can come in when they come in, right? That's exactly the issue we're up against. Is we've had, the perfect storm in downtown recently with a number of projects along 14th Street, all under construction at the same time. And the city administrator has asked us, a number of different departments to work together to come up with an approach to manage construction impacts in areas where we foresee another construction perfect storm. So for example, we have a number of projects off of 7th Street at this point. And so we've been slowly looking into some sort of strategy or approach. And I don't believe that the city administrator has landed on a specific approach, but we are definitely looking into some of the ways that could be addressed. And one method is to have a small interdepartmental team who's looking at these areas where we have multiple projects under construction at the same time and making sure that we are coordinating so that some of the for example, some of the encroachment permits, I think that's probably not the right term, but the construction activities that are phased on the street are phased between projects, so you don't have them all happening at the same time. And then making sure that we have coordinated construction inspections and management. So I know that the city administrator is looking into this, and this has been raised as a concern, and I know staff is working on this. I've been involved in some of those conversations. So the city is working on developing an approach to managing construction of multiple projects in a small area.
Great, thank you. Okay, now I'm really done with questions.
Thank you, appreciate it. Does anyone else have any questions for the team? Okay, let's move on to public comments. To commissioners' comments. And I'm gonna start, I might have to drop off in a few minutes, but this whole discussion about Thomas Berkeley Way. I'm born and raised in Oakland, and I recognize it as Thomas Berkeley Way, but I often too refer to it as 20th Street. So, I think it is important to recognize and memorialize, this Oakland leader. And I appreciate Gene Hazard actually bringing it to our attention at a DRC meeting at the Oakland Heritage Alliance, echoing that, and along with several commenters. But I think that is an important discussion, that we need to have.
I'm sorry, before continuing the conversation, the discussion, just to be clear, Chair Lamone, do you intend to leave at this time so that we can announce that Commissioner Manis, as Vice Chair, will be taking over chair of the meeting?
Yes. Yes. So I'll pass that on to Vice Chair Manis to complete the meeting as chair.
Excellent. And we continue to have a quorum. Thank you.
Okay. And one of the benefits of attending DRC is we get to, vet these projects. And, this project has definitely raised a lot of issues for us, but the project team was able to address all of them and work with us in a very cohesive manner. So appreciate appreciate the project team. And also the architect, they have a landmark portfolio of projects throughout the world, and this will definitely be an important project for Oakland skyline. So, I'm in full support. I probably won't be here for the vote, but thank you to the staff and project team. So, Vice Chairman.
Do you want me to? You don't want me to comment yet. You just want to go around the horn. What do you want to do? I'll chair now. Here, okay, you'll disappear. Terrific. Thank you, Chair Lamone. So let me go through the comments from the fellow commissioners. Commissioner Mollenchamp.
Thanks. Yeah. So, it is a very tall building. I think it is architecturally really interesting. I think DRC did a good job on refining the building. I think someone said it looks like it's longingly looking at San Francisco. I think we had a meeting about the West Oakland BART station where I think I said something like, I wish it was taller. This is definitely taller. It is similarly right on top of BART. And I think given our world at large, I recognize that inviting more office users into our city creates a demand for housing, and that I recognize that pre-pandemic, BART was definitely being utilized, not necessarily bringing a lot of people to Oakland not necessarily as bringing as many people to Oakland for jobs as it brings to San Francisco. So I do think that in our overall jobs housing balance and needing jobs in downtown Oakland, especially to bring daytime and people going for lunches, and I don't think we have a cafeteria ordinance. I think it would be interesting to have that problem such that we had a cafeteria ordinance. That is all we'll see what the pandemic brings. But I hear the community's concern about those issues. I think that it is very interesting that in our current state of the world, people are doubling down and building office in Oakland, and it's hopeful, if nothing else, in our current times to see someone wanting to do this. So I think it's a beautiful building. It is very tall, but given its location, I think it's appropriate. And I think instead of looking longingly at San Francisco, it's like, hey, I'm cooler over here in Oakland. So that's how I view the view to San Francisco. I do agree on the name, and I do think that is something that should be addressed for sure. And I do recognize that the construction is a lot for that neighborhood to bear. Change is difficult, and having a lot of projects happen at once is difficult. I think Amy noted that that's being addressed. I think that's not just this neighborhood that's having that happen. So I do think it would be good to figure out a policy. And then the open space and having it be exclusive. I get that there's a path. I don't know how much that's going to be used for people going up and taking a real walk on top of a podium, but it's a cool use of the space, and it's better than having just concrete. So I think it's great. I don't think a lot of people are going to go for a long walk up there without first popping down to get their coffee. So yeah, those are broad general comments and opinion, but I'm excited that someone wants to build office in Oakland right now. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Mollenchamp. Commissioner Day. Commissioner Hegde, you with us? Can't hear you.
He's not muted. There we go.
Not muted.
No. Commissioner Hegde, we're not hearing you, but it doesn't appear you're muted. Now we can.
Now we hear you.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, I feel very overwhelmed by this building. I will leave it to the market to decide whether Oakland can use this kind of office building. But I am generally like overwhelmed by this. And I have a lot of sympathy and empathy for folks who are in the downtown area living through all the construction. As someone who used to live in the downtown area, I lived there before this construction boom. So I missed this. Yeah, I think as in terms of the attractiveness of the building, it's there, but it is really tall. I feel overwhelmed.
Thank you, Commissioner Haggerty. Commissioner Shirazi.
Okay, sorry, I was having trouble with mute.
No problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think that some of the issues that have been brought up, I will just start by saying I do think that the naming issue needs to be resolved, whether it's on the city side or on the applicant side. I don't think it's something we want to put off. I think it's quite important. But outside of that, I think, normally I would complain that there's parking above a BART station, but I think that because it's an office and retail location and they've done a really good job of hiding the parking and incorporating it, not using additional land for it, I'm good with that. I do think it's a really nice looking building. Yes, it's huge. It's a downtown of a city. I think part of the reason that, BART is so crowded in the mornings is because people are leaving the city to go to work. And if we can keep them in the city to work, that's great. That means less commuting. It means more dollars spent in Oakland and more sales tax revenue and more businesses supported. I agree in general. I think that our jobs and housing balance is probably a little swayed the other way. And like I said, I think we're probably making up for some of the imbalance in other cities, but I am really curious just to see if we can find out more on that. But that's mostly because I'm a nerd. And then I do think that the issue around construction and sort of the impacts to the community, like Commissioner Monchamp said, are not just in this area, it's all over because, and really not just Oakland, every city is changing. We're growing in population, people are moving into urban areas. So we need to figure something out around that. And I'm glad to hear that the city is working on it and trying to mitigate some of those impacts. I know that doesn't necessarily help the people that live in these neighborhoods right now. So I'm hopeful that we can move quickly and sort of maybe even phase it. So there's some sort of thought around that for the developers and construction workers as we're starting to grow more and more, especially post-COVID. But yeah, I think it's a beautiful looking building. I mean, yes, it's tall, but I think it looks great.
Thank you. Commissioner Ray Lynch.
Those are just some of the comments from the Planning Commission.
As someone who was literally brought here by Thomas Berkeley, he's the reason I came to Oakland. He brought me here. I definitely would like to see his name on there. I think obviously that was 20th Street at one time. So I'm sure it's just a changeover in with his name being added as a new street name from 20th Street. For the building itself, it boxy to me, but I like the details that were put together in the building. The lower level, the piazza level, the mid level, and the top. I think those are very great additions to the skyline and to buildings like this, in order to make them more user friendly and also more friendly for the people in the building. Because yes, you do want, I heard someone talk about, you want people to get out and walk on the street. But when you're working in an office building, to be able to just actually stay in the building, take a 10-minute walk and then get back in is very convenient. So there's some nice touches here, and to have all those levels be accessible to the public, I think is an outstanding development that the developers put together here. So overall, I think the building works. The height doesn't bother me. I think it's about time that we started to have some larger buildings here. And I think in terms of the housing, we have so much housing being built all over downtown and throughout the city that I think there'll be ample housing for as this building begins to lease up and people who are in this building start looking for housing. Because one of the concerns I was having was whether or not we're going to have too much housing and nobody able to actually qualify to move into the housing. So I think that's going to be an advantage, quite frankly, to have the housing that we have that is currently being built.
Jesus.
And then to have this building come behind it so that people have a place to go. So I like the project as overall, and I think if we could get more of these, we could make this truly a city that is on the move as it is right now. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Fern.
Yeah, tough to add I'll just kind of echo, some of the things that fellow commissioners say. I'll add to the chorus around the name change. I think obviously the city needs to look into their Acela program as well to assure that gets changed, but it seems like we're all in agreement about that. I too appreciate the moves that the developer made related to the DRC comments. I think that the public spaces are unique. I think it's not something you see in office buildings opening themselves up to the public. And so I want to encourage that. I think with what could happen at the Kaiser complex across the street, you do have this kind of collection of privately owned, publicly accessible open space that could really be cool. And I think that, the building being broken apart with the open space in the mid-level, something you don't see every day as well. So appreciate that gesture. And I don't also have a problem with the height. I mean, we're right in the middle of the downtown. We're right downtown Oakland, which is a city in and of itself. I think it can have, quality landmark buildings, of which, I think this could become one. And I believe that, in our overall jobs, housing, and balance, I certainly can't look at it on a parcel by parcel basis. You have to look at it, from a regional basis.
Are
really.
you kidding?
I also believe that there are opportunities to better utilize BART going in both directions instead of being a commuter rail into San Francisco, and ideally and hopefully BART in the near term and in the intermediate term will also have additional capacity to shuttle folks around as well without getting into cars. But overall, I support the project and the moves that were made.
Thank you very much. So let me add my my comments to my fellow commissioners. I agree with the substance of what my fellow commissioners have shared, and I think it's really important. I know the project sponsor will continue to pay attention to this. One of the things that I wanted to sort of make note of that was in Rebecca's staff report, which really sort of was an affirmation for me, was the description of our continued evolution of emerging compact urban center in downtown. I think that's a very important thing. And the second part of that, I would say, is that Hines, who is a global leader in projects all across the world in terms of quality projects, it's a very good sign that their stature is one that they're committed to being a part of this Oakland continued evolution as a city. And I think the design for me is a reflection of that. It is a very elegant and modern expression with a lot of detail. I was looking at those aerial shots, and I would have to sort of make a comment that in comparison to some of the other projects that we've seen around that area, the project actually aspires to a much higher level of finesse and design refinement that I would sort of say is a very, very good sign for Oakland in terms of attracting projects that have that caliber of scale and refinement that we all sort of feel that this is characteristic of the city. And with that, I want to say that I think the project has gone through design review. I think the project sponsor and the architect were very responsive and did hear the comments that we have tried in every way to try and respond to the issues that my fellow commissioners have identified. I think ones that are on their minds as well, and they will continue to refine the project as it moves forward. So with that, do we have a motion on this item?
Oh, Chair Randis, I'll do it. You're typically our motioner, so I'll go ahead and take your place. But I'll move to affirm staff's environmental determination and to approve the design review, conditional use permit, and variances of a maximum setback standard subject to the attached findings and conditions.
And apologies through the chair. Did you want to add the part about conditioning the project on including the Thomas Berkeley address?
Yes.
I'm accepted.
The second,
Okay, so first by Commissioner Fern and second by Commissioner Ray Lynch. And what was the addition? I missed that.
The address.
Address regarding Thomas L. Berkeley Way.
That is, okay. And I'll call the roll. Commissioner Monchon,
Yes.
Commissioner Hegde.
Abstain.
Okay. Commissioner Shirazi.
Yes.
Well, okay. And Commissioner Ray Lynch,
yes.
Commissioner Fern,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Manis.
Yes.
Motion passes with 5 votes to approve and 1 abstention. This decision is appealable to City Council within 10 days.
Wonderful. Thank you very much on this item. Secretary Payne, we have an approval of the minutes of April 7th, I believe.
Yes, and let's take a look at the agenda and make sure we've gone through every item. Typically, the next section of your agenda would be appeals. However, there are no appeals this evening. And then moving on to commissioner business, you do have 1 set of minutes, and that would be for the April 7th, 2021
Hey, folks,
meeting. And
one moment, please.
Desmona, could you tell us who can vote on that?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry,
Yes.
I left my Zoom screen.
I left the meeting, but I have the first portion of the votes that are captured 5-1. My comment basically is that under normal circumstances, I would be in favor of a project like this, but those circumstances passed 10 years ago or started to, and then with the pandemic, what would have taken another 5 years to unfold was thrust upon us. And that is that people are working out of their homes and they're not commuting. And yet, when office pressures are brought to a city like Oakland, where you say you're going to have 864,000 square feet of office space, nothing else but office space, that tells me that there's going to be pressures on housing that will continue to lead to our homeless problem. Unlike the other people there, I come from a background where I work for a redevelopment agency. We use tax increment financing to raise enough money to build affordable housing. We had an affordable housing industrial complex. That's gone. Even though there are people who believe that the level of housing that's going up around the city is, tremendous. If you take a look back at what we did when we had redevelopment, what's going on now pales in comparison to what we had then. If we maintained redevelopment, we would not have a homeless problem, but we do because we don't have this 20% set aside annually to finance and build affordable housing. That's gone. So Oakland has left itself to a market that is systemically racist, and yet the planning commission seems to act like that's not a problem. It's mind-boggling what I saw, but there it is. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com. I favor the project with live work and with Thomas Berkeley's name on it, which was fixable. I feel the biggest problem still is the scale and scope of this project and how it's going to impact socioeconomically Oakland from that place. The Planning Commission seemed fearful to even discuss that. All right.